I'm Jennifer McLean, and let's queer up the worldview. Australia court reopens case on excluding trans bi women from lesbian group events. A federal judge in Australia has set aside an earlier ruling that blocked a lesbian advocacy group from excluding trans and bisexual women from its events. This has sent the case back for review. The case centers on the Lesbian Action Group, LAG, which sought a 5-year exemption from the Sex Discrimination Act in 2023 to restrict its events to lesbians born female only. The Australian Human Rights Commission, AHRC, denied that request, stating it was not reasonable to exclude transgender women from such community events. LAG appealed, and in January 2025, a tribunal ruled the exclusion would constitute unlawful discrimination. Now, Justice Mark Moshinsky has overturned that tribunal decision, citing legal errors and ordering a reconsideration. Heather Corkhill, the legal director of Equality Australia, said, quote, "The court has not endorsed discrimination against trans women, and it has not decided whether the exemption should be granted. It has simply identified legal errors in the tribunal's reasoning. So the matter must now be reconsidered." End quote. Justice Moshinsky said the tribunal had taken too narrow a view of its exemption powers and suggested the law could allow broader interpretation, including considerations of biological sex. The case will now return to the tribunal for reconsideration. That's a lot. There's a lot going on there, I gotta say. But to me, it goes back to people not knowing the difference between biological sex and sexual identity and sexual preference, like all of that. And if it has to go back to consideration because of technical errors, then hopefully it comes out on the side of inclusionary rulings, inclusionary rulings, so that all women, be they lesbian, queer, whatever.
I'm going to have a slightly other view. We talked about this once before. There was a gay campground that wanted to exclude trans men from the campground. So, and we had a discussion about that. This particularly, you're right. There is a difference between sexual identity and sexual preference. So if it's a lesbian group that wants to not allow heterosexual women or bisexual women into their events, they kind of have the right to do that. What the transgender part of it is the one that I have a problem with, because discriminating against anatomy is the problem.
Right.
I honestly don't have a problem that, because they don't want gay men there, they don't want straight men there, they don't want straight women there. So if they don't want bisexual women there, so be it. I mean, that's their group, that's their right. But to exclude trans women, because you will have a trans woman who is lesbian, you will have a trans woman who is heterosexual.
Exactly.
As you see that I said both things in one sentence to describe one person. So, and like the person said, the court hasn't said one way or the other. They're just saying, the way you got this through is flawed, so let's retest it. Let's throw it back to the rules.
To me, it's sad because our own letters, LGBTQ, we're now creating the problem by highlighting this, versus all along it has been the government and everybody else coming for us. Now we're coming for ourselves.
Well, but I think it's
the worst time.
But I mean, I hate to say this, that I think people in general always have. I mean, we have men's clubs, we have women's clubs, we have predominantly we have African American clubs. So we've always excluded people and always kind of brought off groups. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because if you're finding safety amongst your like-minded people, your like kind, I don't have a problem with that. If it's done out of hate, there's an issue, right? We have the gay men's chorus. It wasn't the LGBTQ chorus. It has changed. We have changed, and certain things don't need to be exclusionary. But there has been places and organizations that were created to create safe spaces.
Right.
So yes, we are creating problems amongst ourselves. I think some of it gets a little stretched and becomes a problem when it shouldn't have been.
I mean, are we now, as far as clubs go, organizations now saying, now you need to identify, can you show us your birth certificate in order to join this? Or, I mean, are we really getting to that level?
I mean, you have to vote.
Wow.
I mean, I hate to say it. Look, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I also don't disagree with having a lesbian club.
Yeah.
I don't,
Right.
I don't disagree with having a gay men's club. I don't disagree with those things. What I do disagree with is when you're saying, well, you're a lesbian, but you're not the right lesbian.
Right.
You're a gay man. You're not the right gay man.
Right.
That's when I start having a problem. And you're saying it's because some sort of anatomy that I may or may not have or have
Right.
been born with properly.
Right.
That's when I have a problem.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.